Hi, I'm Mickelle Weber, founder and auteur of House of Peregrine. Expat, immigrant, pioneer, none of these were a fit, but Peregrine describes what we are all about perfectly. Those that craft their life story with intention. I've spent the last 6 years in awe of the life-changing connections and stories I have experienced while living abroad, and believe it is time for this adventure to be recognized, celebrated, and elevated to the life stage that it is. Through these interviews, I hope to connect those living internationally more deeply to both the place they are living and with themselves and those around them. We cover everything from international finances and meaning-making to global parenting and relationships to make your time abroad more intentional, edifying, and full of beauty. Find us at houseofperegrine.com, where you can find more ways to connect with the ethos of Peregrine. I hope you enjoy today's guest. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the House of Peregrine podcast. Today, I am thrilled to be joined by Brooklyn Brownstone, the founder and CEO of the Labor Department, a community dedicated to supporting parents and parents-to-be in navigating that transition to becoming a parent. Brooklyn has a wealth of experience as a senior marketing professional, having worked across industries like fashion, travel, and consumer goods, with a global perspective spanning Europe, Canada, and the United States. With over a decade in marketing, she's passionate about crafting seamless consumer journeys, building engaged brand communities, and helping business connect meaningfully with their audiences. Now she's channeling that expertise into empowering parents to thrive. Today we'll dive into her journey, the inspiration between the Labor Department, and what's next for this revolutionary community. Thank you so much for coming on, Brooklyn. I'm such a huge fan of what you're up to.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. I want to dive right into so many things with you, but I want to start first with your personal story. Where did you grow up and what brought you here?
Cool. So I grew up in Toronto, Canada, but I've lived in a few other cities along the way. I went to university in Halifax. I lived in New York for a little bit. And about 10 years ago, I met my partner and we moved to the Netherlands shortly after meeting. He's Dutch and he wanted to come home. So we decided to give Amsterdam a go. And that was 8 years ago. So it's definitely become my home. I'd like to say to people that, I've spent, I don't really know how to adult anywhere else. Like I've been an adult here only. So we got married here, had our son here, bought a house here. I started my business here. Amsterdam is really our home now.
That's amazing. So
Yeah.
you came for love and you stayed for the adulting.
I stayed I asked myself why I stayed a lot. Some days more than others. I think, I've stayed for the quality of life. I've stayed for how beautiful the city is. I've stayed for our beautiful home, our great community, the sun, a little bit of the rain. It's a really great place to be a parent. It's a really great place to live and work. I don't know if it's a great place for small business, but it's where I am. So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know if you're familiar with my story, but I've also been here 8 years. But
Cool.
I have a American partner. So we're both American and we just came for a year. And now
right.
it's suddenly been almost 9, I think. But it's for
Classic.
the reasons you said. I always say it's a really gentle place to adult in some ways as a parent.
Yeah. I just think the expectations are a little bit lower and not in a bad way. More like, there's not a race to interview for kindergarten. There's not this expectation of working until 10 o'clock every night. Like it's just the pace of life is really enjoyable.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. We both agree. So I came when I had a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 18-month-old. So when I came, my lifeline was Amsterdam mamas, which is a lot of us, right? But when I became a parent in the US, no one really like pulls you aside and gives you a class. Like that doesn't happen.
No.
And so you're kind of figuring out everything for yourself and looking around being like, is everyone else finding this difficult? And so when I saw the Labor Department come up, whenever I found you a year or two ago, it was like, yes, this makes sense. This is sanity right here. This is what sanity looks like. Especially as an international parent, it became another layer on top of that parenting nonsense, like insanity.
Yeah.
And so tell me, when you moved here with your partner 8 years ago, you weren't a parent yet.
No, I wasn't a parent yet. When I moved here, I was a corporate person working in marketing, and then I became pregnant. And it was just like a total slap in the face. Like, I really had this different expectation for how it would look and feel for me. Pregnancy was just really difficult. I had a lot of like physical issues. I was really sick. And it took a big, big toll on my mental health. And I just felt really lonely and lost. And, more than that, I just felt like, wow, I didn't know it could look like this. And I think that really is what inspired the Labor Department and our sort of main program, Prep to Parent. Just that knowledge is power, and knowing what things can look like, whether it's breastfeeding or baby sleep or your relationship, just being aware of how that can change and morph, and the experience that you might have, just sort of seeing a preview can make such a difference on how you actually walk through it. So yeah, I think when my son was 1, I kind of started curating all the things that I felt like were creating more realistic portrayals of what that moment looks like, what that experience is looking like. And I started a newsletter with that information. And then from there, I did like a pop up, and then I opened a space, and I used that time and that space to really dig into that a little bit more. And basically, like, I asked every single new parent I could, what is it that you wish you had known? What is it that no one told you? What do you feel like you were really poorly set up for? Across the board, what I heard was, well, I thought the way you prepare for becoming a parent was by preparing for birth. But no one told me that, birth would be 9 hours, but that I would like really struggle with breastfeeding for a year, or that, I would end up having a emergency C-section, and all my hypnobirthing would go out the window, and, the postpartum recovery would be really challenging. So basically, I took all that information that people generously shared with me, and through that created Prep to Parent, which is either a 4-week or a weekend program designed for English speaking couples that really prepares you for everything that's going to happen next. So we're essentially trying to redefine how parents walk through the transition from adult to adult and parent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on that, you say English-speaking parents, which I think in the context of the international community in Amsterdam, that
Yeah.
usually means people from around the world.
Yeah, I think it's like a mix, right? It's people from around the world, but of like, I would say a good 30% of our participants are Dutch, but they have English speaking partners. So they have an expat partner or an international partner.
My question is part of this also preparing them for giving birth outside of their own language and culture?
It's not just giving birth outside of their own language and culture, it's raising a baby outside of their own language and culture and adjusting to the cultural norms here, and learning how to like raise a hand when you don't feel certain of what's happening around you, which is quite often in parenthood.
In parenthood, and then add the extra layer of being outside of your own culture, and
Totally.
you've got to.
Totally.
I always tell the story
Yeah.
about when we first arrived. We were riding in the Bakfiets. I had 3 little kids,
Oh
and
God.
we'd been here like a few months or something. Not my son, who's really curious. He said, "Mom, what's that?" And I was like, "I don't know, buddy." And he goes, "Mom, what do you know?" And I was like, "Actually, not a lot right now, because
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
figuring this stuff out as I go. A, I've never had it before. B, I've never had kids in Dutch school before, So
Yeah.
he was bringing out something that's potentially a fear and also can be an adventure of this extra added layer of being outside your country. And so I think
Yeah.
that's really cool, and also having someone to just another parent to look across and be like, is this crazy? This
Totally.
is crazy.
Yeah. Is this normal? But also like getting comfortable with not knowing. Like, I think a
Mhm.
lot of it is, at least in Prep to Parent, what we look to do is not to necessarily say, like, I mean, obviously, there's some components of the program where we're like, hey, this is what a Kramzorg is, and this is what the Consultatie Bureau is. But really, it's about also getting you to a place of comfort where you can say, like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
This doesn't
Can you?
feel right for me.
Yep.
Like, really being able to put up a hand or throw up a flag when you need it, and then like ideally with the people you meet in your group. So like that I think is really the best part about it all for me, is that we've seen so many amazing friendships grow. I see people like hanging out all the time from it, bumping into each other. There's nothing I love more than when I see like a photo of a prep to parent group with their 2-year-olds.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and what we don't talk about enough is this is a massive transition. So you're actually taking
totally.
people into this next phase of their life, and it's not really talked about as a life stage. So
No,
becoming a parent, you might lose your colleagues, you lose your identity, and you gain something else, but you are walking through, like you said, this transition. And so for me, I always try and ritualize things. So there's no ritual, it's like in every culture, mostly in Western culture, it's like, here's the baby, have fun.
good night and good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think that like, I think that moment is also really culturalized, I guess. Like there's really different ways of approaching that moment from one culture to the next. But I do think in itself, like the international community transitioning into parenthood is its own culture.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I look around the room at some of these groups, like we have people from sometimes like 7 different countries. And with that comes a big sort of expanded universe of what postpartum and matrescence and that whole moment can look like, what the care looks like, what the roles look like, what it really means to rest, for example, is really unique. And I love like that in this course, there's also like this cultural exchange. So, for example, whenever we start a new prep to parent group, we always ask people what they want to be called. Like, are you going to be called mom? Or are you going to be called dad? And in that moment, you can see like this wealth of, yeah, cultural history coming to the table, and also some uncertainty. Like, I don't know yet. Maybe like I want to say papa, but maybe in my language it's something different. And actually, I want to continue that with my child. And yeah, it's really cool.
So it's almost you're taking them through this journey, because otherwise the world kind of does it for you. And that taking the thought before you're thrown into the ocean is kind of nice. But also, I think when you live abroad and you're outside your own culture, you are making a lot of stuff up as you go. You're choosing, you have more choice, but you have more responsibility as well.
Yeah.
We always say like celebrating holidays. Which holidays do you celebrate now? And with a child, there's like a deluge of decisions that you have to make all at once, that you're having to, it's like a custom home. Like you have a custom,
Mhm.
you have all the decisions.
I think actually there's some really good benefits to that. Like, I think that there's a lot of fear surrounding becoming a parent as an international family, but it's actually kind of also a really unique opportunity, not only for, your little human who has exposure to so much more of the world's cultures and identities, but also like for you as a family to sort of redefine what parenthood and family looks like without like the pressures of your family or your, traditional cultural norms being overbearing on you.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. But with that, being able to define family however you want, you also lose whatever support was there. If there was, in fact, support, whatever that looks like, you do. That's the only, well, that's not the only, but that is a thing that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think two things on that. One is that often the support that we grow up with is a little bit of a, yeah, how do I put this in a nice way? It's not always actually in existence. Like we think that living by our family means that our family's like readily available, and that's not always the case. And I think that, a lot of people experience that same sort of loneliness with their parents as neighbors, for example.
Yep.
But I also think what's cool about not having that is that you have to be a lot more intentional around the kind of support that you want. And, you know, parenthood is all about learning how to ask for help. And I think that like having that sort of forced on you in an earlier stage just prepares you for the rest of your life, essentially. So yeah, I think like that's one of the things we really strive to do in Prep to Parent is really make sure that people feel comfortable with that and get used to that.
Yeah. And I think it's actually a more collective way of going through the world, whereas
Yeah.
maybe in your home country you could get by doing everything yourself. It's not pleasant, but you know how to do it. That sense of like, literally, I don't know how to buy diapers yet in Dutch or in
Yeah.
whatever language.
Yeah.
It's too much to hold yourself. And so it
Totally.
forces this more collective mindset from the beginning, which is actually, as we know, advantageous for parenthood in general and children.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it also, again, forces you to think about what you really want and what you really need and being like way more intentional about how you're living your life, which I think is like really good to have that edit, especially in parenthood where there's so much like crap thrown at us. Like you can block out a lot of that noise in this way and really like focus on the things that are serving you and feel good for you.
Yeah, perfect. So I know I want to ask you, so this is built, I'm assuming you've built what you needed like at the time.
Totally. Yeah, I've 100%. It's actually interesting because I built what I needed and then rebuilt it. I've really like over the past 4 years of building the labor department, it's been like a process of like, okay, what is essential for me as a parent here? And throwing a bunch of stuff on the wall and then slowly like cutting it back. So like there was a point when the labor department had 30 different programs, but what I felt like what was really needed for me was like this grounding in education, where essential education and community come together is where I found that our niche really exists. Like how can we use the moments of challenge and like pain and confusion as opportunities to help people connect,
Yeah.
to build
And
their community.
yeah, and as you're saying this, it's occurring to me that you're doing this. I hope it's okay we say your son is 5 now.
Yeah, he's 5 now.
Not a lot of people can do this while parenting. Like this is you're doing two very difficult and rewarding but difficult things at once, which is being a parent for the first time to a 1-year-old, then a 2-year-old, then a 3-year-old, then a 4,
Yeah.
and building a business. And so is your own story what gave you the determination to continue that? Continuing providing support when you also could probably use support.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think also like, yeah, I mean, I think my own story is definitely like the seed of the business, but I think that like the longer you're in this world, like this sort of parenting industry, I guess, the more opportunity you see, right? Like the more you see that, oh, we should have more of this, or we need more of these kinds of events. Like it's like with any business, the longer you're in it, the more you refine the product, refine the product, refine the product. And for me, yeah, this business is not an industry I knew anything about. Like I come from a marketing background, so I'm like I'm I'm pretty adept at selling a product in that way, but not creating one. It's been, yeah, it's a really big journey learning how to create education products, learning how to build teams around that to support the program. I think what's really unique about Prep to Parent is that we have many teachers teaching it. So unlike other programs where you have maybe one teacher teaching 5 classes, we have 5 teachers teaching 5 classes. So you'll get exposure to different perspectives and just like,
So my
yeah.
question is, not everyone would have the strength and the determination to do this while they're a new parent. And so that
Yeah.
it's actually really remarkable that you, and my other part of this question is, do you think you built your business differently because you were going through that at the same time? Not going through that, you're creating a human and creating a business.
Yeah. Well, it's tricky because I think that like where I built my business differently wasn't necessarily a good decision. If I can
Hmm.
be totally candid, I think a lot
Yeah.
of my decisions were emotional and maybe not like, yeah, I led with my heart in a lot of things that maybe if I was sort of came from a more traditional business background, I would have been like, those profit margins aren't significant enough. Onward, like anybody. I remember really early on when I was speaking to some potential investors about the labor department, it was just that there were so many red flags for it as a business model, mainly being that we're continuously looking for new customers. Like once somebody does Prep to Parent, that's it. It's not like they can do it again and again and again. And that's like a big no-go for,
But
yeah.
If I could posit as someone who has acted as an investor and is building a business, I think that that model is what's broken and not your approach. If
Thank you.
I can say that. So if they can't see the point of an evergreen audience coming in because humans are being born every day, then that's a perspective that makes our world worse,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, I think that there's a lot to be said for other forms of growth that don't just exist in repeat customers. For example, like at least 45% of our community comes from referral. So that's like our biggest business driver is that friends are sending friends to the program, and that's really cool. Yeah, there's definitely other ways of growth, but I'm trying to answer your question in a more positive way because I think, yeah, like what is it that how did being a parent help me? Well, I mean, I think it's been really healing for me. Like, I really struggled with my own experience in pregnancy. And I think, like, helping parents to not have that same experience has been pretty amazing. I also felt like one of the reasons why I struggled so much was because I was hearing that I should be having this certain kind of pregnancy and I should be having this certain kind of birth. And that I wanted to create a different narrative, and I think just doing that has been really, really motivating. And I
Yeah.
think, like, as I'm sure you can relate, when you take time away from your family, like, it better be meaningful. And it's been meaningful. I know that the program really matters to people and makes an impact on people's lives. So that's really rewarding. I think the other side of it is that, like, how do we want to contribute to the planet? What is our role? And I think, like, there's so many industries that are full of noise, and when it comes to, like, the dialogue around parenthood, I think a lot of it is bullshit and dangerous and harmful, and I really pride myself and the teachers I work with and the curriculum that we offer on the fact that I think it's really empowering stuff. Like, there's nothing that makes me happier when somebody says, like, "Oh, wow, I loved how much data was in this class." You're like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, that's because we like facts."
Yeah. Yeah. Give you the facts so that you can create the experience you want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't want
It's
anybody.
not to scare you. It's not to anything. It's like
Totally,
become the CEO of your life. Here's all the numbers.
totally, totally, totally. That's exactly what we wanna do. We wanna make sure that people feel empowered to make their own decisions and in a collective, right? Like, we encourage people to come together as couples to the program, or if they're not in a relationship, to come with a friend or a partner. We really wanna make sure that these are spaces where dialogue can happen in a really positive way for everyone involved.
Yeah. And if I can say, like, how many governments are trying to combat loneliness?
Oh
It's
my
like
god.
your vision's almost
Yeah,
too effective. Like that is because there are inflection points in everyone's life where it becomes more lonely and less lonely. And
yeah.
becoming a parent is one of them. Retiring is one of them. There's all these
Well,
inflection points.
I really love that you're talking about that inflection point because that moment in pregnancy is also one of the moments when you have the most ability to change behavior. So you've got like sort of all these things coming together in these 9 months. And what we were doing, or what we seem to be doing, especially like in contemporary society, is like really inundating the person experiencing that with like really harmful messaging that leaves them sort of frightened and alone. And yeah, I'm really trying to change that.
Yeah. And it's instead of so this is a weird thing I'm going to say, but for me this resonates. Like it seems like we're trying to give them choice, but we're not.
Totally.
Like if you're the CEO of your life, and this is what I've learned over years of building businesses and being around executive people, is they get the softest treatment from everyone around them because they are the ultimate decision maker. And in becoming a parent, you need gentle treatment. You are dealing with these tiny people who are the future. So dealing with us harshly is actually such a bad idea for humanity. Being like, here's a bunch of painful messages. Oh, we're just trying to give you all the information. Oh, you need to do it better. You need to. It's this like this really aggressive marketing and also effect making things harder. If you treat parents like gold, the kids get treated like gold, right?
Yeah, I agree.
But instead, we're treating parents like, yeah, you have to make all the decisions. So it's such a turn in,
Yeah, I think it's a fine line, right? Like, I actually struggle with this a lot because I do hear our instructors, like when they get some questions, they will say like you really have to do what's right for you and your family. So it is like a fine line between here's the information, how can I give this to you gently? And ultimately, like it is what's right for you and your family. But I think that it's the attitude that we come at that from. Like what's right for you and your family is a decision that you can make when you feel happy and healthy and safe
And respected.
and respected, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like just trying to like work on building that piece so that people can navigate through all the information.
Yeah. And
So I
what
think if you're overwhelmed, if you're scared, if you're frightened of the consequences, if you don't feel like you have the wherewithal and all the information, if you don't feel secure in your partnership where you're making that decision together, if you don't feel safe in your body, yeah,
you
it
can't make good
doesn't matter
decisions.
what decision you make because it won't feel good. I think like the hardest part of making a decision is making the decision. There's no wrong decision. You just need to make one. And being able to say yes or no comes from, having confidence.
Yeah. And we're actually eating away at that confidence instead of supporting that confidence.
Totally. Totally.
And that's the parallel I want to make to corporate life is that if you get high enough up on the food chain, people are speaking to you gently. People like your assistants, your people who are dealing with you, you are the ultimate decision maker. They are dealing with you gently. They are
Yeah.
not being like, you're the CEO. They're not screaming at you like, you're the
Yeah.
CEO. Make a decision. That's the
Hear
rest of the
me,
world.
hear me.
Yeah, like the rest of the world might be doing that and your profit margins, but the people in your team, they're speaking to you kindly and they don't want you to make rash decisions.
No.
So
Yeah.
that's the parallel I like to draw. Like software that's made for parents is just
Yeah.
like it's the wrong power structure is set up, and that's a little esoteric, but that's how I felt as a parent. I was like watching my partner, who I love and cherish, he was the executive of a tech company, being treated so nicely by
Yeah.
everyone around him, and I was like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
people are treating me like control your kid, feed them, make their food, and like no one was treating me gently, I guess.
No. No, it's true. It's really a backwards way of society that I'm sad that we've landed at, but I'm really hoping that yeah, more businesses like mine will start to pop up to encourage a different way of thinking. And also like I think the other thing is that it's not I think we've made big steps in terms of moms and support for moms, especially postpartum, but I do find there's a bit of a gap still in how we approach the family unit from like fertility on,
Yep.
which I'm working on.
Yeah. And strides for women is like so overdue, but so is for families. And I love how you say, I hope more businesses start like mine. Like that's
Yeah,
also not a normal mindset for a business owner. I just want to highlight how many ways you're thinking about business differently.
thank you. I think that like the more the better. I think that the more we normalize supporting parents and building products and platforms that do that, the better. I think that like what we want is to pivot this kind of education from being a nice to have to a must. And I think that sort of radical tipping point only comes from more industries to support it. Like, for example, um, if we take like the baby industry, which is like completely oversaturated, there's a reason why we think we all need like sensory toys, and it's because we have a million businesses that make them. So I'm not really afraid of that in any way. I've really struggled with how I approach competition, if you will. My main thing is I think that we need it.
Yeah. But also, I think it's because of how we value things. Like if you can make the 100th sensory baby toy, that's fundable.
Yeah,
If you're
totally.
making a community around people who are at this very like how long do you use that toy, that sensory toy?
Hmm. Hmm.
Is that a one-time purchase? Oh my god, oh my god, clutching pearls, it's a one. But education for prep to parent is also a one-time. No
It's
one's
a one.
their pearls.
No, no one's clutching their pearls. It's and also like normalizing the investment. It's wild. It's totally wild looking at like where we spend our money in parenthood and like I think you can literally see like where impact and price completely go the opposite direction.
Yep. Totally.
We spend like an outrageous amount postpartum on baby. That's like really our key spending moment. We spend a significant amount on birth. We spend very little on everything else, especially when it comes to us as like the drivers in these situations. So yeah, really trying to shift that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that goes to gender norms in society in general, where women and mothers are not as important and not
Yeah.
highlighted, not cared for. And it's this notion of caring for the carers, and then you get better outcomes. It's just, it
Can I
is the
tell
way.
you? So last night we kicked off one of our prep to parent groups, and last night we were doing the preparing for postpartum class, and I don't go to all the groups, but I try to pop into at least one week of one session a month. We usually run 3 groups a month. And the first question one of the partners asked was, what are the signs that I can look out for postpartum depression in my partner? Like, how can I identify if she's experiencing postpartum depression? And in that moment, I just thought, like, holy shit, what if everybody knew that? Like, what would the outcome be on families? Like, in that one question.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, if you're talking about caring for the carers, like, empowering us to know what that looks like is mega.
Yeah. Do you ever have people in my own journey? I was really afraid of anyone thinking I had postpartum depression. I don't know where that came from. Some
Yeah.
irrational fear inside of my head had it that someone would take my kids or something.
Well, that fear is mega. I know that, like, in our mental health class in Prep to Parent, there's a lot of talk around like the fear of your children being taken away. And I think that probably has a lot to do with not understanding the system that we're in, right? Because we're not from here.
No, this was in the States. I also,
Right.
I didn't know enough, but like it wasn't a rational thing that was happening.
Yeah.
Like I should
Yeah.
have, if I were in my right mind, I'd be like, so you're going to help me babysit? Like
Yeah.
I will get some, like you're not going to take them from me. But it wasn't, what I want to say, I guess, is that acknowledging that you are in a different mindset, your body's different, like your instincts take over a bit more
Yeah.
than I was prepared for. And the instinct that they're going to take my kids is not a rational one. It's a body felt experience. But
Yeah.
just knowing that someone, like for someone to whisper in my ear, like they can't take your kids at the right moment would have probably
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
useful, even though it's not a rational thought. Right.
Yeah, but also probably what would have been useful for you is like if while you were pregnant, somebody had told you that you might have a lot of irrational thoughts postpartum. And if you have them, you should share them. And then we can help you decide which ones are realistic and which ones aren't.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of like interventions that we're hoping to make in Prep to Parent is really helping people to navigate what that future looks like and when to reach out for support, when they need support, how to do that. Yeah, just to identify like what this whole thing can look like.
Yeah. And what I knew for certain, and this is what, you know, what I wasn't certain, and this is another thing, is the landscape, right? I thought if I tell someone there's not support there for me, it's not like there's a nanny or Kramzorg like here that is there, the government's looking out for it. In the US, at least, it was like, yeah, here's some medicine.
Yeah.
And so that knowing that was also, maybe there were groups, maybe there were doctors, maybe there were, but I didn't know them. So it just felt
Yeah.
pointless. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
for sure. And I think like knowing somebody who knows them, like having access to a network of information. That's why like when you join Prep to Parent, you also get access to this portal. And on the portal is like everyone,
Yeah, that's awesome.
like therapists, lactation coaches, postpartum doulas, anybody that you would need to hold your hand is readily available.
Yeah. And I would just like to say it should be expected, like you said, to ask for help. Like expecting yourself to do everything is a good way to burn out. It's a really good way to have parental burnout.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's what we're setting people up for. And so I love what you're doing. It's almost like you can tap into this needed resource that's not there otherwise. So
Yeah. No, absolutely.
yeah, that's
Totally.
really cool. What I want to know from you is, what in the labor department do you ever talk about language? How language is used for women?
Yeah. I mean, is used for women or in general?
in general? Like, I think you talked about harmful messages, so I just wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly do a lot with birth. I think like I try to like encourage people not to use terms like natural birth in reference to vaginal births, for example. I think language can be like really empowering or disempowering, but yeah, it definitely is like a big point of conversation across the board. And it's changing a lot. Like, I think when it comes to breastfeeding, for example, some people want to call it chest feeding now. There's like, a lot of evolutions happening in that area. Yeah, just trying to keep up with it, I guess. And I think from sort of a general standpoint, again, it's not that we have like specific language that we want people to use. It's more about being open and encouraging of the language that's right for them.
Yeah. And I think that's actually the key that I would, instead of trying to make everyone use the same language, it's almost like use that as a key. Like, oh, if they're saying mother, like this is what I did when my kids were little. If I went into a museum and I felt like I couldn't be there with my kids and I had to be tense all the time, that
Yeah.
museum just wasn't for us,
Yeah.
right? And so it wasn't that I needed the museum to change. It wasn't, but it's like, I'm not welcome here. I need to listen to that and go somewhere I
Yeah.
am welcome. Or if like
Yeah.
a friend and I like couldn't get along about, if we couldn't respect each other's birth experience, it'd be like, cool, I don't need you to change and me to change. But finding your places as a parent is really important.
Yeah, totally. Finding the right fit, finding your crew, finding the people who see you. And I think that's also what we really try to do with our community is help people connect and find those people that can support them and can like really see who they are and validate the experience they're having. There's nothing worse than being in a space where you feel like completely unwelcomed. And yeah, I think that as internationals, we kind of always feel that way a little bit.
It's so true.
So we're trying to change that as much as we can with our community.
Yeah. So tell me, so in 20 years, you will have a 21-year-old
Oh
and
God.
Labor Department will be doing the 30 programs you say. Tell me your dreams for Labor Department, even if you're not running it. What does the landscape look like for what Labor Department's trying to do and beyond? What does the world look like if you've done your job?
Yeah, I think like we're trying to really disrupt the way that parents walk into parenthood through an education lens. So really shifting the emphasis away from birth and onto like a more holistic version of what it means to transition from being an adult to a parent and, ideally doing that in community. So
But are there people who are now getting back together and being like, "Oh my God, we have teenagers. Let's
yeah,
let's walk through
exactly.
that together." Is that
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's like a lifelong project that you're signing up for. And I think that how you start that project really sets the tone for your evolutions further on. I think I'm not quite in a place with the business yet where we want to expand our education to teens, though I've had some pretty inspiring conversations around that. But I think like where we will probably always stay rooted on is like empowering the parent as much as we can. So we are less interested in educating babies or teens or kids or toddlers and more interested in educating the parent as sort of the leader of that group, I guess.
yeah. But I can
Yeah.
tell you, having teenagers, I have a 13-year-old and a 12-year-old, is
Wow.
almost as big of a transition. Not
Yeah.
not that you have to do this, but I think, like you said, parenthood is a lifelong project
Yeah.
with many inflection points, but it is an entire paradigm shift to empower parents and to bring them together and have that be valuable and fill in this gap that's actually missing in actually how to raise a human. Uh,
Yeah. Well,
that's a massive gap.
I think what's interesting is that, like, along all those moments, there's a backbone that exists, like, holistically, that exists across it all, right? It's about having the confidence to make empowered choices. And I think that's really where we come in. And whether that's like, whether or not your teenager should have a phone or whether or not you should bed share with your baby. Those are both those how you make those decisions are really rooted in your own, yeah,
But
confidence.
yeah, and that question is super interesting. And this is where the backbone has to be community. You
Yeah.
cannot make the decision if your teen
No,
has a phone in isolation. It is impossible.
yeah.
We tried. I can assure you. I have one of those tech husbands who thought it was a great idea to not let our kids have phones till they were in middle
Yeah.
bar school.
Yeah.
Social suicide.
God. Yeah.
We learned the hard way that that is a community decision and not an individual decision.
Yeah, yeah. I'm part of the whole smartphone free childhood movement that's happening here in the Netherlands.
Me too, but it was
Right.
not happening 3 years
It's
ago.
really, yeah, you really have to be lucky enough to be in a class of with parents who are willing to commit together. I'm really glad I don't have a kid at that age yet.
Yeah.
So
But my point is, I would have loved to have a group that I have known since babies that I trusted.
yeah,
So what you're building is actually the infrastructure
yeah, I
for
hope so for future
parenting.
decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Like that's really interesting to think about these parents 20 years from now. I mean, I know that those collective decisions are already being made. Like I see it in their childcare choices, in their product buying power, in their, a lot of people have chosen not to go back to work in a traditional sense and have started their own things. And I think that that has a lot to do with like seeing it in their community. But yeah, it is kind of cool to think of like parents that have done prep to parent 20 years from now. I'm going to the second birthday of the first prep to parent group.
Oh, amazing. Amazing.
And it's one of the kids is turning 2 and they've invited all the other prep to parents. So it's really that's our oldest group. So I'm really excited to see that.
Yep. And I can say to you that whoever did not invest in your company from the beginning was a massive idiot, because this is powerful stuff, but
Yeah.
it cannot be. And this is a trend we see all over the place. And it's actually becoming more valued. Community building is actually the value.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think what we're trying to do is bridge that with like, building a sustainable business. Like, what does it mean to build a sustainable business that is value driven and that connects people in a meaningful way? And, really trying to like unlock where those two things
Yeah.
collide, I guess, is a little bit of trial and error, but I think we're slowly getting there.
Yeah, of course. You're outside the traditional systems. I get it. And then as
Yeah.
a professional person, you're also doing that as well.
Yeah. So I think like it's interesting. I became a parent in a corporate environment and I saw a lot of gaps in that experience. So, another branch of the labor department is like the corporate strategy work we do. We're helping businesses to have infrastructure that really supports parents. We see a lot of burnout amongst new parents. We see obviously big, I guess, overall well-being dip in the return to work moment. And we're really trying to pivot how businesses support people through pregnancy and postpartum in the workplace. Yeah.
And the connection I make here, and this is maybe one that you've already made as well, is empowering parents. So makes it so they also become harder to bring back to the workplace if it doesn't work for them. And so it goes from supporting parents to recruiting parents.
Totally.
So the
Yeah.
turn that could be made is like, I've heard it a lot, right? Like, oh, we need to support parents. It's a good investment. Parents are opting out. This does
Yeah.
not work for them.
Hugely. It's not
So,
working for them. And
so,
then,
so the turn of language is recruit parents back. You need to
yeah,
recruit them back. Like, you're
I
not
love
supporting
that.
them.
Yeah, no, I really love that. The cost is so high. Also, anybody who has worked in corporate knows the cost of hiring a new employee is significant. And really, we just need to make some tweaks along the experience for people going on maternity leave to ensure that doesn't happen.
Yeah. And I would invoke Jane Jacobs here and saying, if it works for parents, it works for everybody. And
Love that.
when we look at cities and how they're built, if it works for women
Yeah.
and children, it works for everybody better. If it's built
Yeah.
for men, it only works for men and of a certain age and a certain ability. So I would invoke the Jane Jacobs philosophy to corporate workplace strategies.
Totally.
It's not going
Yeah,
to be
it's really,
worse for men
yeah.
or non-parents. I get that the discussion is that it puts more on their shoulders if we give flexibility to parents. I understand. But what if it's just people and not
Yeah.
parents?
No, exactly. Like I think when we hear parents, we're thinking like, oh, it's really expensive and it's really niche. But actually, if it works for them, it works for everyone as well. You're 100% right. And I think that like Yeah, these aren't like nice to haves. These are staples that we really should be considering more and ensuring that companies have included in there. And I would say to any parents looking at companies, you should really ask like what those policies look like, what their benefits look like in those areas, how they support parents returning to work, how they support, for example, career growth after you've had a child. It's a really good, I think, temperature check on how forward thinking a company is and what the support system is going to look like for you there.
Yeah. I would say it's antiquated to have any other way. Um, and as a
You'd
like
be
I've
surprised at like
no,
how,
I wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised, but
yeah,
I'm refusing to accept it. That's what it is.
yeah, no, it is quite interesting though to see like how few companies have anything beyond. Yeah, I can't think of any companies that are really, I'm like blown away by their maternity leave support system. It's not really where it should be. I think where companies have done really well is that they're like, oh, we're going to beef up the leave time. We'll give you more time. But they haven't really matched that with a support system for reintegration.
Yeah.
So that's really what we're working on.
Yeah. And do you think that this is a question I ask myself all the time. Do you think that the way businesses are built is incompatible actually with I think it's a systemic problem. I don't think it's a like parents are not the problem.
No.
Like making humans shouldn't be like something you do and it negatively benefits you.
Yeah. I don't, yeah, like can you be a working parent and be successful in both areas?
No, can you be a successful business and
Mm,
have parents and be with the way companies are built and work on the corporate side as well as everywhere?
yeah.
It's not that can you be a successful parent that or a successful person. If I turn it around and say, can you be a successful company? Because that's what I want to build is a
Yeah.
successful company who allows people to be human. And in that encompasses being a parent, being sick sometimes, having a bad day, taking care of parents, taking a vacation.
I think if we're open to re-examining how work is distributed and communicated and our roles, I think the answer is yes.
I do too.
I really do. I think that like there is, if I look at how many changes we've made for technology, for example. If I look at how many changes we were able to make in the face of COVID, like I really don't see why we can't be making more shifts
Yeah.
for parents.
Me too. Yes.
Yeah, so I feel like the answer is yes. But I also feel like it is in partnership with my question, which is like my challenge, which is can you have it both? And I think like can you be a successful parent and have a successful career? And I think there is where we need to like really reevaluate what success looks like in those areas and ideally like bring in more support externally.
Yeah. No, there's no way I could do what I do. I do what I do because I live next to my kids' school and
Yeah.
work next to my kids' school. And with throughout the journey I've had different support, but they're not, again, everything seems inside out, right? So
Yeah.
if you're lucky enough, if you're wealthy enough, if you're blah 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 determined enough, that's when you can do this. But for
Yeah.
me, that's where the change needs to come from, is we need to recruit parents, not support them.
Yeah, I love that recruit parent. I'm writing that down. That's a good one.
But I love this notion that what gave me the hint that you are building things differently is you said you have 5 courses and 5 different people teaching those courses.
Yeah.
That's a change in how things are done.
Yeah, it's a big change in how things are done. I think, yeah, it's not necessarily like, yeah, again, like a lot of the decisions I made have been made based on like what I needed and what I felt was good enough. And I think sometimes my business bar has been a little bit too high. And yeah, I'm definitely like evaluating that and looking at that now and trying to sort of determine how necessary that is. But what I wanted was to make sure that people were learning or exposed to a variety of voices because I think who you meet along your journey in pregnancy really informs who you think you'll get when you reach out to for help on the other side. And it was really important to me that people left feeling connected to at least one person, or like, oh, if I need some help, that's what I'm going to get. And I really liked her or them, or, so yeah, but again, trying to figure out what sits well for me there.
Yeah. And it occurs to me that you said you made a lot of decisions based on your heart and you don't know if that was wise. I would just say that it made me like super tickled that you said that you made decisions based on your heart and what you needed.
Yeah.
I know the traditional business. I know it. I know that's not what you're supposed to do, but I think if you see what I see a business being created differently and in a way that the world really needs, and it's creating real value and not just investable value.
Yeah, that's really kind of you. I appreciate that. I think like, yeah, as you know, like if you're going to take time away from your family, it better be meaningful. And I think that at the end of the day, all I have is me. Like I can't blame anybody else. So I needed to make sure that the decisions that I was making, like I could really stick up for them. It's hard to stick up for something you don't fully believe in. So
Yeah, I
I
love it.
think that if I look at like the next, say, year of the labor department, I think a lot of changes will happen to facilitate more growth, especially like more access. I think that we're currently like slightly limited by geography and timing and all those things. So I'm curious and excited to see how that shifts. But one thing I've been trying to do is just like be more open to smashing it all down in order to build it back up. I think I've applied so many like kookier ways of approaching the decisions I've made, like, oh, what feels best? And now I'm trying to like do that to the future thinking as well.
Yeah. And if I could say, that builds a business differently. When you build on a
Yeah.
different foundation, it just
Yeah.
does. And it doesn't matter almost doesn't matter what you do next. If you apply then regular
Yeah.
business standards to it, it still has different outcomes. It does not matter if in a growth phase, in my opinion, you then
Yeah.
apply those principles. It's like a really powerful tool, but you've built the base on something completely different. And that leads to a different tree. It really does.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. And I'm really curious to see like what that looks like and where we land.
I love how candidly you're speaking about your business because I think we're kind of both business people who are doing business in
Yeah.
a different way.
Yeah.
And I love that you're letting us see that. I think it's really beautiful.
Well, yeah, I think that yeah, I love the idea of like built in public, like these sort of just tearing down on the walls and saying like, here's my infrastructure. And I really think that's why we've had so much success is because people feel connected to the success of this community. They feel that they are really part of its growth and they are like I really value our community members as sort of board members for what we're growing here. And I've really tried to build for them and for their needs and in a way that works for them. I think, yeah, we're now at a place just where we're kind of at like a critical mass moment where we need to just make some decisions around the best path forward, which could also just be continuing what we're already doing. Knowing me, that's not going to be the answer. It's going to be like, what's the next step? And also, like, what's the next step that feels right? Like, a lot of the steps that people have suggested to me just didn't feel right. Like, I don't really want to add more noise, like, I think what we have is really good. I don't think that we need to, like, yeah, I want to try to grow in a way that's thoughtful and productive.
Hmm.
And like, for example, our birth class is like really about the phases of birth. It's about the physiology of birth. And then it really goes into like the birth system here in the Netherlands. I could also offer like a million other birth classes. There's so much of that already. So, and people who are doing it brilliantly, not only in the Netherlands, but more international. So, like, that's not really a content stream that I want to contribute to more, even though everybody's told me to do that. So, yeah, it's about like trying to make sound business decisions that also feel right for what the world needs.
Do you also feel like, in a way, you're not a content company? You're a company who does content.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good question. Like, who am I?
Welcome
Like,
to business, everybody. Welcome to business.
yeah,
Existential
because
crisis.
It's totally pivoted. Like, I think when I started my business, I was a content business. It started as like a curation platform. And then I was a retail business. And then I was a community. And now it's like pretty split between like education as a gateway to community. But what does that mean in practical terms? Like, what is my product? I think it is content, but oh, that feels so cringe for me. But I think it's because I guess a millennial, I feel like when I hear content, it's like useless garbage. And the content we're producing is not useless garbage. It makes a difference in people's lives.
It does. Even your content on social media, which I also think is cringe to say that I make content on social media. It's not my
Yeah.
favorite thing to admit I do. It has helped me feel more connected in the world just by reading it. So I think there's a
I always
difference in how you do it.
Thanks. That's really nice because every time somebody tells me they found out about the Labor Department through social media, I feel like I need to apologize. Like, yeah, I really appreciate that. But that in itself has really changed actually for me. I think like just going back to the balance between being a parent and running the business, especially like just to speak more candidly, I've been going through like a fertility journey over the past few years as well, trying to get pregnant again. And I've had to definitely like pull back on social media in order to do that. Like 4 years ago, I was like on stories live every single day. And I've just really minimized that for my own like mental well-being. And just, overall, I've really sort of said like, I can only do what feels good for me. And I'm not going to do more than that. I refuse to be like burnt out by this. So just trying to like create some boundaries that feel better for me.
You're already changing the world just by doing that, I can assure you.
I hope so. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you so much. I want to be mindful of your time, but I could talk to you for hours about this. I think it's really easy to get lost in being a business owner. I know this myself. I don't even like to say business owner. I don't even know what I would call myself. The CEO and founder of a company
Yeah.
is it's like swimming in the ocean while creating the ocean. They say it's like building the plane while you're flying it. These are all ways of saying that I see what you're doing from a different perspective than you do, and I applaud what you're up to, and I can't wait to see it grow. Yeah, stay with us. We'll put everything for people to get in touch with you in the show notes
Amazing.
below. But what is the best place for people to connect with Labor Department if they want to?
Yeah, just visit us online at www.thelabordept.com.
Okay,
It's the
and
best
that's
way.
kind of the portal to everything.
Yeah, or you can always hit us up on Instagram at the Labor Dept. It's LABOUR, the Canadian spelling.
The Canadian spelling. Yeah, you got to have it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about all this. It's just so nice to like connect with another founder and another mom in this way. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much.
Awesome.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. We'll talk to you next time and have a great week.
Bye.
Okay, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed our show. For the latest insights on living internationally, join us at houseofperegrine.com to find out how you can connect with our community. Let's craft our life story with intention together.